Yes guys, Coach Indy here. Welcome back to Asian one-to-one football coaching. On today's analysis and tactics board session, we're going to be analysing another Premier League game from the 1920 season. It's between Leicester and Arsenal. Leicester ran out 2-0 winners. Before we get stuck into that, I need you all to hit the subscribe button, leave a like and leave a little comment as well what you liked about the video and what you want to see going forward. So in terms of both teams' form and personnel for the game itself and the managers, etc., Leicester were in actually really strong form going into the game. From their last 6 games, they'd won 5 and lost 1. The game they lost to was to Liverpool, and I think that was quite a late goal they conceded in that game as well, a dubious penalty if memory serves me right. So they were in quite strong form going into the game. Whereas Arsenal, on the other hand, they were in dismal form really. The last 6 games only won the 1, drawn 4 and lost 1. So although they were hard to beat, they were also struggling to win games as well. So mixed form from both teams sort of going into the game. Brendan Rodgers is the manager for Leicester City. In terms of Arsenal, although Mikel Arteta is now the manager of Arsenal now, back then it was Unai Emery. Obviously since then he's got the sack. So and probably this run of form and a bit after this game as well led to him sort of getting sacked from Arsenal. So in terms of the lineups themselves, Leicester are playing here a 1-4-3-3 formation, and they start off with Schmeichel in goal, Ricardo Pereira, Johnny Evans, Sion Chu and Ben Chilwell. Playing as a single pivot in the number 4 was Wilfred Ndidi. 2 8s next to them. On the right hand side was Huey Tielemans. On the left, James Maddison. On the right hand side was AZ Perez. Left hand side was Harvey Barnes, and up front, obviously, Jamie Vardy. So Leicester probably was their strongest 11. The only question mark you probably have over is Harvey Barnes. He only just sort of broke into the team. It's between sort of him, Damari Gray, Albright, and them types of players that sort of played a few games prior to this as well. But he's established himself sort of in the team now. So this was probably Leicester's strongest team, and since this game as well, he's kind of continued in the team as well. So credit to him and the work he's put in to sort of establish himself in the Premier League. So in terms of Arsenal, their formation was a 1, depends on the way you look at this, 3 or a 5. I'm going to look at it as a 1-3-4-1-2 formation. And their lineup was Bernardo in goal, Callum Chambers, David Luiz and Rob Holding. The wing backs of Hector Bellerin and Kolasinac. 2 in midfield here was Guendouzi and Torreira. And left the front 3 of Mesut Ozil playing in behind Aubameyang and Lacazette. So Arsenal probably was their strongest 11 available at that precise moment. They had relatively new signings in Tierney and Pepe, who weren't quite up to speed at this moment. Remember rightly, Tierney suffered a few injuries, so he wasn't quite right. And Pepe he found, certainly from the outside, it seemed like he was struggling for the pace of the game, so he wasn't quite ready. And then obviously you got the likes of Martinelli and Sacco, who are young sort of talents, and they sort of emerge to the forefront sort of later on in the season. But sort of at this state and this sort of stage in the season, this was Arsenal's strongest 11. So the first thing I sort of want to mention here, going into the game, and sort of maybe 3 or 4 hours prior to the game, and even during the game, the conditions were atrocious, and it was absolutely chucking it down. For like I said, 2 or 3, 4 hours before the game, and throughout the 90 minutes as well. So straight away, the pitch was nice and slick. It was nice and wet. It allowed for a fast game, for a nice sort of counter-attacking game, if you like, as well. There was lots of transitions, and also for the 2 styles of both teams as well. The styles they both play will only benefit them as well, because they both like sort of rolling the ball around and playing quick combination football as well. So prior to the game, you could see straight away this could be potentially a fantastic game in terms of the type of football played. And it did turn out to be that in various stages throughout the game. In terms of the game itself, there was nothing that was outstanding that happened from either team in the first half. A lot of it was sort of played in the middle third here from both teams, so it looked neat and tidy. Lots of sort of midfield players getting on the ball, looking easy on the eye, but as soon as you got sort of into the final third and in this sort of area for Leicester's point of view, or the final third here for Arsenal's point of view, they lacked real quality. Both teams did have a few chances, but nothing that sort of stretched either goalkeeper. There was one routine save that Schmeichel made in the first half, and Lacazette missed a fairly decent opportunity but put it wide, and then Leno on the other side, he made a couple of routine saves as well. So nothing that was sort of too complex for either goalkeeper to sort of be outstretched in the game. So the game sort of evolved. Both teams had decent possession of the ball. I want to fast forward to half time already, and so it's half time. It's gone to 0-0, and I thought maybe, because I remember watching the game, I thought maybe possibly just sort of maybe to see who would sort of blink first and what manager might change the game first, in terms of would it be personnel they might change. So could Leicester take off a wide player and bring on Iheanacho and sort of try and have two up top to sort of try and combat the Arsenal back three, because it's very difficult when you've got a Vardy playing against a three, unless these two played narrow, which they didn't always. They did at times, but it's slightly too easy for these. So maybe from Brendan Rodgers' point of view, he could have possibly brought on another striker to try and occupy those three. And then from Arsenal's point of view, could they maybe even sacrifice their defender and to try and get another advanced player into the game? And maybe they were thinking, we're away from home against a strong opposition. Got to bear in mind as well, getting into this game, Leicester were third in the league and Arsenal were fifth in the league, so they were very close. It was a big sort of game, and you know, Arsenal wanted to sort of get into the Champions League positions. This was a big game for them, so they're probably thinking maybe if we can sort of stifle them a bit, especially in the first half, and then if we need to go for the game later on, we can remove a centre half and get an advanced player into the game. So I was waiting for that half time to see who would sort of blink, and actually neither of them did. None of them made any tactical changes, no formation changes, no personnel changes. So the game for the next sort of 10-15 minutes in the second half remained the same. Leicester probably edged a bit more possession, being the home team. They probably felt like they had to be on the front foot a bit more to sort of please the fans. Obviously they were going for the 3 points as well. So it got to sort of 10-15 minutes into the second half. It's actually the 55th minute, and the situation that arose with Arsenal actually. So the 55th minute, and Arsenal actually, they think they've scored a goal, but it actually gets disallowed for offside. So the ball's picked up in here, sort of in a central position. It's on a counter-attack as well, so Leicester are sort of semi-disorganised, not massively, but semi-disorganised. Ball gets fed out to Kolasinac, and the wide area here is making a really sort of strong supporting run on the left-hand side. Aubameyang is making a he's busting his gut to sort of try and get into the central area, looking for that sort of low cross-in for him to sort of side foot and finish away. And obviously you've got both the sort of centre halves for Leicester trying to retreat and try and prevent that. But Aubameyang was a little bit sort of lazy in some people's eyes. He didn't quite hold his run. He was actually marginally offside. It was the right decision. It wasn't too difficult for VAR to sort of overlook that and turn that around. The ball's obviously come in, across the ball, he side footed it, neat finish into the far corner, gone to VAR, they've made the right decision, offside. So there's two things with that. I think either Kolasinac could have taken another touch and allowed himself to either get beyond Aubameyang in central position, or delay Aubameyang's run slightly so he can sort of hold back. But then obviously the downside of that is these guys will be retreating back in. But it's the right decision. VAR made the right decision. It was offside. Still 0-0 at this point. I'm just going to fast forward to minute 68 where the opening goal came from. So as you can see, you've got the number 2, Ricardo Pereira for Leicester, up on the ball here. Kolasinac is putting pressure on the ball, which you expect if you're sort of playing 5 at the back or with wing backs. And you've also got Arsenal in a decent shape here. You've got the 3 centre backs, and you've got Bellerin sort of tucking around and the ball sort of transitioning around as well. So Pereira, all he does is knock the balls out wide down here, down the line. To note at this point here, Demarai Gray's come on for Jose Perez. Rob Holding follows him down in this position here. Gray tries to sort of face him up, can't go anywhere, so strong defending from Rob Holding, forces him to go backwards, which is what you get taught to do as a defender. Don't sell yourself, try and make them to play backwards. Pereira sort of comes in, combines, there's a couple of 1-2s in here, Klasnak sort of retreating slightly. So there's a couple of 1-2s, 1-2, and then Tielemans gets involved as well. He kind of joins in here, so there's a pass in here, goes back in here. I just want to mention at this point here, there's quite a big gap between sort of Rob Holding and David Luiz. Now, ordinarily, obviously, Rob Holding would be in that position, but he's been dragged out there, so it's quite a big space. So that space here, we'll talk about in just a moment, it will get exploited, but Arsenal could have potentially asked Klasnak to get back in, but then Pereira had the ball, so he's put pressure on him. And then Guendouzi was with Tielemans here, so that was more difficult for him to sort of cover in that position as well, because he didn't want to leave Tielemans free. But maybe you could argue they could shuffle over a bit more as well, and then sort of cover that position there. But then obviously they were in this position here, and that's where they were set. So maybe on hindsight they could have transitioned and covered the space a bit more. But anyway, Pereira gets the ball on the right hand side here, and Harvey Barnes in number 11, he's sort of ghosting from the left hand side sort of into more of a central position, and this is where Bellerin, probably the right thing to do is to go and follow him, because you can't leave him spare in that position there. So he kind of plays a reverse sort of calf pass, curled pass across the deck into Harvey Barnes, into sort of around the edge of the box area. So Vardy's still in this position here, sort of still on David Luiz, and then he's sort of making some movements. He's really clever, so he's not ready to pounce just yet, but he's sort of making a movement towards Callum Chambers. So as that ball's been played in here, Guendouzi is now ball watching, so he's, rather than facing Tielemans here, so Tielemans is here and he's here, he's now gone like that to see where the ball's gone, and then Tielemans has run off him. So as that ball's come in, Tielemans has made that run just in there, blind side. All Harvey Barnes needs to do is just set it first time into Tielemans' path. Guendouzi hasn't noticed it. He's a young player, so he can still sort of develop his awareness and stuff, and recognising third man runs from central midfielders. Because once that pass has been made from Barnes into Tielemans, this is where David Luiz needs to sort of come across. Torreira's actually coming across as well. He's sort of more in this position here, and these are sort of transitioning across. Remember, Bellerin's in more of a central position where Barnes was. At that stage there, Vardy's actually peeling off to create some space for himself at the far post. Because he knows these two here are going to have to shuffle across to try and have a block the shot, which you could argue Tielemans could have had in this moment. But what Tielemans does there, really strong awareness actually, he recognises that maybe if some bit of emergency defender comes in from David Luiz, the block's going to come in, and he recognises Jamie Vardy's movement, so he knocks it square into this position here. As Leno's sort of transferring his body weight across the goal, there's a big enough space at the front post. He strikes it first time into that bottom corner, and Leicester take the lead. And it's a really well worked goal. So it's a patient goal for combination play on the right hand side, and sort of looking for that moment where they could make that penetrating pass to exploit the Arsenal sort of organisation in the defence as well, and the team structure, not just as a defence. So that was 1-0. That was 68 minutes gone, and Leicester taking the lead. So Arsenal at this point here, they probably have to commit more players. They could have made a sub in terms of taking off a centre half and bringing more advanced player in. Just to note with Jamie Vardy at this stage now, he has become the top goal scorer in the Premier League. He's now on, I think it's 10 goals in the Premier League. So he was absolutely flying for Leicester, you know, and there's no coincidence. If Jamie Vardy does well, then Leicester do well, and hence the reason why they were third in the league going into the game. And also one other sort of statistic to sort of mention as well, Jamie Vardy loves playing against Arsenal. He's played them 9 times and scored 9 goals, so it's certainly an opposition he likes playing, regardless if it's home or away. He just likes playing against that type of opposition. I think Arsenal, they haven't got electric centre-halves throughout the period that Jamie Vardy's been in the Premier League, so he's always enjoyed playing against those types of centre-halves, so there's space in behind for him to exploit. And in this situation here, it wasn't a necessarily long ball that, you know, what Vardy was sort of typically known for, but that's where his sort of movement and sense of where the play and the ball could potentially land and where the space was for him to sort of move into. That's where his experience will come into, and he did really well in that instance there. So it's up 1-0 to Leicester at this moment. We're going to move to the 75th minute, and Leicester actually double their lead, and this is how the goal sort of materialises. So actually Leicester had quite a bit of the ball, and they actually regained possession, will win the ball back, and Klasnak has the ball on the left hand side here. So now looking for a transition, you can see that Pereira, the number 2 here, the right back's out of position. Damari Gray sort of retreated back in to prevent Klasnak from making a straight line run into the space here. So what he does is he tries to knock a square ball into Aubameyang's toes, and Ndidi, who's probably the most underrated player in this Leicester team, certainly to most fans I would say, not necessarily to the coaching staff and the management and his fellow peers, but certainly from the outside looking in, most players will say he doesn't really do a lot, but certainly, like I just mentioned, the people that are most important will recognise what job he does. So he anticipates a square ball, he actually nicks it, so it's brilliant front foot defending, nicks the ball from Aubameyang, and then he actually drives in this position here. So you've got Torreira, the number 8, and the 7, they go and put pressure on the ball. He actually skips past one, then skips past another into this position here. So he's going past both central midfielders in sort of a 3-second spell. So he's intercepted from Aubameyang, gone past 2 other centre midfielders, and he does the right thing in here. So as soon as he gets the ball there, he just plays a little reverse one into Pereira's feet, into here, because Pereira, remember, is out of position because of the initial transition that Arsenal had, and he was sort of making his way back. So as the ball gets into Pereira, he actually receives the ball on the half turn but swivels out at the same time. So imagine he's facing Ndidi sort of here, the goal's behind him. He receives the ball sort of in this position here, receives, spins out, and he's all of a sudden facing the goal and his defender as well. So that was really sort of nice sort of movement, if you like, especially from a fullback, which you wouldn't necessarily expect him to sort of do that. The Pereira picks up the ball here, drives in. Vardy's making this another run, peeling on the outside of Callum Chambers, which he always likes doing. That ball from Pereira basically makes a nice sort of pass into there, nice incisive pass, good weighted pass. Again, goes back to sort of pitch. You can just sort of zip it in and sort of test the player's touch, if you like. So that's sort of happening here. Chambers is sort of trying to sprint across and sort of prevent Vardy from getting a strike in, and he does do that initially. By sort of blocking down the space, and also Vardy's touch was slightly too heavy, so he couldn't quite get a shot away on his second touch. Whilst that was happening, James Maddison's been supporting play. He supports Vardy, recognises that Vardy probably can't get a strike away the way he would like to, sort of what I would say the Thierry Henry position, the inside left, and sort of bend it that far corner, because Chambers has done well and Luiz has come along to sort of cover as well. He knocks it back to Maddison, and he strikes it nice and low into the bottom corner. It actually goes through and also players' legs into the bottom corner. And 2-0 Leicester. The fans went absolutely crazy. And that obviously, like I touched on earlier on, 3rd against 5th, that's a massive, or potentially a massive result for Leicester. 75 minutes gone, 2-0 up. And they've sort of put a marker down, if you like, actually, in terms of saying to Arsenal, catch me if you can kind of thing. So yeah, sort of 76 minutes gone, Leicester 2-0 up. It's really strong position. Defensively, they've been really strong all season, well, up to this point. And like touched on in terms of goals, Vardy scored lots of goals, and Maddison and others have contributed as well. It's not just been Vardy by himself. So at this point here, you expect a bit of an onslaught from Arsenal. Expect personnel changes, etc. To happen as well, but actually the game just fizzled out. And it wasn't so much to do with lack of Arsenal trying. I think it was more so to do with, the maturity Leicester showed in their, the maturity they showed in their game. They looked after possession. They didn't take any risks when they didn't need to, but at the same time they weren't complacent. They didn't concede any chances worthy of sort of mentioning in terms of big chances, but they showed real maturity, and that's a positive sign for Leicester, the Leicester team, and the fans as well, because that would all be coming from Brendan Rodgers and obviously his experiences he's had at Celtic and Liverpool and Swansea and Watford, etc. So he would have learnt as a manager as well to sort of pass on these subtle messages day by day in training or week to week when you play games, or Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, whenever you play your games, saying there's moments in the game where you need to manage it. And this was a prime example where you just need to not necessarily see out the game, but just show maturity in the game. Like recognise, right, if we're in the defensive third there, we don't need to take any risks in here. If you're in the middle third and we can receive the ball on the half turn and got time on the ball, then we can play a little bit. And also, you know, the fullbacks and don't need to at this stage necessarily go bombing forward, because Chilwell and Pereira are probably, along with Robertson and TAA, the best sort of pairing in the league. So that was another thing they sort of showed definitely me, that they had lots of maturity in their game. So Arsenal lost the game 2-0, and this actually moved Leicester into second in the league and moved Arsenal down to 6th. Sheffield United, who were actually in 6th before this game, I'm not sure if they picked up a win or a draw, but they certainly went ahead of Arsenal. And then Leicester, they went from 3rd to 2nd because this same weekend Manchester City played Liverpool and Liverpool won the game. So, virtue of that, Leicester climbed above Manchester City. And actually Man City went from 2nd to 4th because Chelsea won their game as well. So really, really impressive sort of win for Leicester, really, against sort of another. They would have probably seen this as an opposition in terms of where they want to get to, i.e. the European position. So they would have seen them as a direct opposition in terms of where they want to get to. So yeah, that was absolutely fantastic performance from Leicester and Rodgers and Kolo Toure and the rest of the team there at Leicester City. Just to throw some numbers into the mix as well. In terms of the game stats, there wasn't a massive amount in terms of difference between both teams, but Leicester did edge in most categories. So scoreline obviously 2-0, they've won the game. That's the most important stat of any. So that's a tick for them for Leicester there. In terms of possession, Leicester had 50.2% possession, Arsenal 49.8%. So no difference there, but just a fraction amount. And in terms of shots, Leicester 19-8. So again, the home team, you probably expect that a bit more, to have a bit more, especially when the teams are very similar. You expect the home team to have more because they are the home team. Shots on target, Leicester 7, Arsenal 1, and that's really, really poor from Arsenal. You don't expect that from Arsenal, especially with Aubameyang and Lacazette. And okay, Ozil wasn't in the greatest of form, but certainly he's got the reputation and the experience to be creating more and helping his teammates more in terms of chances created. Corners, Arsenal had 4, Leicester had 5, so Leicester won in that category as well. Fouls committed, it's actually 10-10, so that was a draw if you like in that sense. Saves made, so Kasper Schmeichel only made 1 save in the whole game. Leno made 5, so again Leicester winning that category as well. Passes completed, so Arsenal are traditionally known for a possession type team, but also looking to sort of penetrate when they can, especially in the final third. They actually had less passes in this game as well, so it's 486 to Leicester and 478 to Arsenal. So again, they're winning in that category as well. Tackles made, Leicester 19, Arsenal 18. Now you could say you don't necessarily need to tackle, because if you're reading the game and you get yourself in good positions to not have to tackle, then that's a sort of tick as well. So you could argue in that sense, although Leicester had more, maybe Arsenal were actually more clever in their positional play. But if you purely went down on the numbers, Leicester won that one as well. And in terms of clearances as well, Leicester won that 19-15. So they recognise when they need to clear the ball and when they can play a little bit more and they've got a bit more time. So although the game stats, as I've just gone through them all, they're all very, very tight, probably apart from the sort of shots on goal and the shots on target. Everything else was fairly tight, but Leicester edged everything, which, you know, if you combine all of that throughout the game, they all add up to a certain amount, and you could argue that led to their victory as well. So it doesn't always, be that way. The stats can be misleading. They don't always tell the truth in a game. Sometimes you just need the eye test to recognise who the better team is and who isn't. But certainly it does help. It does give you an indication of where a team is going and where a team maybe isn't going as well. So yes guys, that actually concludes today's session, episode 6. Can't believe it's been episode 6 already. Remember, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, leave a like as well. I want to see plenty of comments. Leave as many comments as you can. They mean a lot to me. I want to try and reply back to as many as I can as well. And we'll see everyone on the next episode.